The evening air around Hogwarts felt sharp and clean. The sky was turning dark blue, and the last bits of sunlight sat low over the hills. Most students were inside by now. The castle windows glowed warm. The grounds looked quiet. Hagrid did not trust quiet. He had been walking the edge of the forbidden forest with Fang, holding his crossbow more out of habit than fear. The forest had been acting odd for days. Creatures that usually stayed deep inside had been creeping closer. Centaur tracks showed up where they should not be. Even the Thestrals felt jumpy. Fang stopped and growled. Hagrid squinted. "What is it, boy?" The air ahead of them bent in a way Hagrid had never seen. It was not like a normal spell. It was like the world itself was being pulled, like cloth stretched too tight. A thin black line appeared between two trees. Then it widened. The sound came next, a low, deep hum, like a storm trapped inside a box. Hagrid's big hand tightened on the crossbow. Blimey! The black line tore open into a tall, oval hole. It was darker than night. It did not reflect light. It swallowed it. Cold rushed out. Not just cold like winter, but cold like a place where nothing lived. Then someone stepped out. He was a young man, tall and lean, wearing dark clothes that looked torn, but still strong. His hair was black. His eyes were calm, but sharp. He moved like a person who always expects danger. He did not look around in panic. He looked around like a hunter. Hagrid took a step back without meaning to. "Oi, you there! This is Hogwarts grounds?" The stranger's head turned toward Hagrid. His gaze landed on the crossbow, then the dog, then Hagrid's face. He did not flinch. He did not smile. He only watched, like he was measuring risk. Behind the stranger, the black opening trembled again. Something crawled out. At first it looked like a spider, but it was too long, too smooth, and it moved in a jerky way. Then another came, and another. Then larger shapes followed, like armored beasts with too many legs and hard shells. They spilled out fast, like water from a broken dam. Hagrid swore under his breath. "Oh, not again. Not spiders. Please. Not spiders." The stranger moved. He did not run. He slid one step to the side, like he was finding the best ground. His hand lifted slightly. The shadow under his feet spread. It spread the wrong way. It did not follow the moon or the torches. It moved like a living thing. It climbed over the grass and dirt in a wide circle. Then the ground answered him. Black figures rose up, one after another, silent and fast. Some looked like knights in heavy armor. Some looked like beasts. Some were shaped like soldiers with blades. Hagrid's mouth fell open. He had seen a lot in his life, but not this. The spiders and armored beasts charged. The shadow soldiers met them. It was not messy. It was not wild. It was clean. The shadows moved like they had trained for this. They blocked, cut, and threw them creatures back into the forest edge. A tall shadow knight with a red glow in his eyes stepped forward and struck once. The front beast split and crashed into the dirt like a broken cart. The stranger stayed still in the center, like the commander of a small army. More monsters came out of the hole. One leapt toward Hagrid. Hagrid raised the crossbow, but the creature was too fast. A shadow moved before Hagrid could blink. A black soldier appeared between Hagrid and the monster. It caught the creature in midair and slammed it into the ground. The impact shook leaves from the trees. Hagrid stared at the stranger, breathing hard. You saved me." The stranger's eyes stayed on the hole. His voice was low and even. "Stay behind me." Right," Hagrid said, because he did not know what else to say. The black opening shuddered again, like it was angry. Then it began to shrink, slowly, like a wound trying to close. The stranger's face tightened. Not fear. Focus. A new feeling crawled over the air like a warning. From far away, the castle reacted. Hagrid felt it first as a pressure in his bones. The air around Hogwarts shifted, like the castle itself had woken up. The torches along the path burned brighter. The wind changed direction. Somewhere high above, metal clanked. The suits of armor in the entrance hall moved. Out here, even the statues near the grounds turned their heads. The stranger finally looked up at the castle. For the first time, his calm cracked just a little. Not into panic, but into surprise. He had not expected a place to respond like a living guard dog. For a moment, it felt like two powers were staring at each other. The black hole snapped shut with a sound like a door slamming. Silence rushed in behind it. Leaves drifted down. Dust settled. The shadow soldiers stood still, waiting. Hagrid swallowed. In a cold room far away, somewhere no student knew, a different kind of silence broke. Lord Voldemort paused in the middle of speaking. The candle flames around him leaned, like a wind had passed through them. His red eyes narrowed. He could not see what caused it. He could only feel it. It was like something had touched the edge of death itself, and it did not belong to this world. A slow smile pulled at his mouth. "Interesting," he whispered. Back on the grounds, Hagrid lifted his lantern higher. "Who are you, then?" The stranger looked at Hagrid again. His eyes were calm like a deep lake. "My name is Jin-Woo," he said. And Hogwarts, for the first time in a long time, did not feel like it was only fighting the war it already knew. The walk to the castle felt longer than it should have. Hagrid led the way, holding his lantern out like it could push back the darkness. Fang stayed close, ears back. Behind them, Jin-Woo walked with quiet steps. The shadow soldiers did not vanish. They melted into the ground and walls, like they were hiding inside the world itself. Hagrid kept glancing over his shoulder. Those things of yours, they follow you, do they?" "They obey," Jin-Woo said. "Right," Hagrid muttered. "Obey. Like trained dogs? Only they're not dogs." Jin-Woo did not answer. His eyes moved across the grounds, the trees, the towers, the paths. It was not curiosity like a tourist. It was a sweep for threats. In his mind, something flickered. A cold, flat message. No voice, no emotion. A prompt. Daily quest. Patrol. Ensure safety of the protected zone. Jin-Woo's face did not change, but inside he felt a small, tired annoyance. Protected zone. He looked at the castle again. It was huge, old, full of magic he did not understand. It felt like a living maze, a dungeon. He did not say that out loud. They reached the front doors. They opened before Hagrid could knock. Professor McGonagall stood there, her mouth tight and her eyes sharp. Behind her, more teachers gathered. Wands were not raised, but hands were ready. McGonagall's gaze hit Jin-Woo, then slid past him, as if she expected an army to walk in behind him. Hagrid blurted, "Professor, he came out of some sort of tear, and there were monsters. He stopped them. With them, shadows." McGonagall's eyes narrowed. "Your name?" "Jin-Woo," he said again. "Only that?" McGonagall asked, not unkindly, but firmly. Jin-Woo paused. Names had power in some worlds. He had learned that the hard way. Still, hiding too much could start a fight here. "Jin-Woo is fine," he said. McGonagall studied him for a long moment. Then she turned slightly. "Albus." Dumbledore stepped into view like he had been there the whole time. He looked calm, but his eyes held focus, like he was already fitting puzzle pieces together. "Welcome," Dumbledore said, gentle as ever. "You've arrived in a difficult moment, but you still chose to protect someone you did not know. That matters." Jin-Woo watched him. This man carried power, but he did not wear it like armor. He wore it like responsibility. Dumbledore's gaze went to the dark smudges on the grass outside, where shadow soldiers had risen. "May we speak somewhere safer?" Jin-Woo nodded once. As they walked, the castle watched. Portrait eyes followed. Candles flared a little brighter as he passed. A few students peeking from behind corners made small sounds, and then ran off like startled birds. Harry Potter was one of them. He had been heading back from a late study session when he saw Hagrid come in with a stranger. Harry froze behind a pillar, heart thumping. The stranger did not look like a Death Eater. No mask, no robes, no sneer, but the air around him felt heavy, like the moment before a thunderstorm. Then Harry saw it. A shadow under the stranger's feet moved the wrong way, like it had its own mind. Harry swallowed. "Blimey!" Hermione appeared beside him, hair a bit messy, eyes bright with questions even when scared. Ron came after, looking half confused and half ready to bolt. "What's happening?" Ron whispered. Hermione leaned forward. "That's not any spell, I know." Harry watched the stranger's face. He looked tired. Not sleepy, tired. Battle tired. Like someone who had been on alert for too long. Professor Snape stepped into the corridor from the other side, moving like a dark blade. His eyes locked on Jin-Woo immediately. Snape did not look shocked. He looked interested in the worst way. He followed at a distance. Dumbledore's office felt warm and safe, but it was also full of eyes. Silver instruments clicked and spun on shelves. A phoenix sat quietly, watching with bright, knowing eyes. Portraits of old headmasters and headmistresses pretended to sleep, but Jin-Woo could feel their attention. Dumbledore gestured to a chair. "Please." Jin-Woo did not sit right away. He stood where he could see doors and windows. Habit. Dumbledore did not push. He only sat at his own desk, hands folded. McGonagall stood to one side, posture straight as a ruler. Snape leaned against a wall like he owned it, eyes cold. Hagrid hovered near the door, still looking like he had seen a dragon do a backflip. Dumbledore spoke first. "You came through a tear in the air. We have many kinds of magic in our world, but this was different." Jin-Woo answered in clean beats, careful and simple. "I was a hunter," he said. "In my world, gates open. Monsters come out. People die if we fail." He paused, then continued. "I was weak at first. Then I survived something I should not have survived. I became stronger." Dumbledore's eyes stayed steady. "And your shadows? They are my soldiers," Jin-Woo said. "They fight for me. They protect what I choose." McGonagall's mouth tightened. "That sounds like necromancy." Jin-Woo did not react like he was insulted. He reacted like he had heard the fear before. "They are not living people. They are shadows." Snape's voice slid into the room like poison. "Convenient." Jin-Woo's gaze moved to Snape. Calm. Sharp. "I do not lie about this." Snape's lips curled slightly. "You do not have to lie to be dangerous." Dumbledore lifted one hand, soft but firm. "Severus." Snape's eyes did not leave Jin-Woo. "Headmaster, we do not know what he is. He arrived with monsters. He commands an army that can appear from the floor. If he chooses to turn, this castle becomes a cage." Jin-Woo finally sat, not because he felt safe, but because he chose to. "If I wanted to hurt you," he said, voice low, "you would already be hurt." Hagrid made a small, choking sound. McGonagall's eyes widened just a little, not from the threat, but from how flat and honest it was. Dumbledore nodded slowly, as if that matched what he sensed. "That is exactly why we must be careful." The instruments on the shelves began to spin faster. One made a sharp ticking noise, like it was panicking. Dumbledore glanced at it and frowned. "Our wards are reacting." Jin-Woo felt the same thing as a pressure on his skin. The castle's magic was pressing back, trying to understand where he fit. In his mind, Another prompt flickered. Warning. Unknown zone effect. Rules differ. He almost smiled. Almost. Dumbledore looked back at him. Tell me, Jin-Woo, do you know why you came here? Jin-Woo shook his head. No. McGonagall asked, Can you go back? I don't know, he said again. Snape's eyes sharpened. Then we must assume you could be trapped here, or that you were sent. I was not sent, Jin-Woo said. If someone could control me, my world would already be dead. That was the most emotion he had shown so far. Not anger, just certainty. Dumbledore's gaze softened. You speak like a man who has seen too many funerals. Jin-Woo said nothing. Silence was answer enough. In the days that followed, Hogwarts became a place with two kinds of fear. The first fear was the old one. Voldemort. Death Eaters. The war outside the walls. The second fear was new. The stranger inside. Teachers watched Jin-Woo like he was a spell that might explode. Students whispered names they made up. Shadow Wizard. Monster King. Dark Hunter. Some students looked at him with awe. Others looked like they wanted to throw up. Jin-Woo did not care about being liked. He cared about patterns. He walked the corridors at night, quiet as a ghost. He learned where stairs shifted. He learned which suits of armor liked to gossip. He learned which portraits lied just for fun. He placed shadows where no one could see them, not to spy, to guard. Every morning, the prompt returned. Daily quest. Patrol. Prevent casualties. Ron Weasley was the first to notice something weird. He bumped into Jin-Woo near a corridor corner one evening. Harry and Hermione were with him, trying to look like they belonged there, even though they clearly did not. Ron froze. Hi. Jin-Woo looked down at him. Ron swallowed and fought the urge to back away. The man's eyes were too calm. Harry forced himself to step forward. You saved Hagrid. Jin-Woo nodded once. He was in danger. Hermione blurted. What are you? Ron shot her a look. Hermione. What? Hermione hissed. We need to know. Jin-Woo did not seem offended. A hunter, he said. Harry frowned. Like, someone who hunts? Monsters, Jin-Woo answered. Hermione's eyes lit up in a way that was both brave and annoying. So the tier, that was like a portal? Jin-Woo glanced at her. Yes, Ron said. Right. Brilliant. So you're like a monster hunter who fell into our school. Harry expected Jin-Woo to walk away. Instead, Jin-Woo looked past them, down the corridor. Stay out of the forest, he said. Harry blinked. We always stay out of the forest. Ron coughed. Hermione looked away. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed slightly. Good. Then he turned and walked off like the talk was finished. Ron let out a breath. I feel like I just got told off by a very polite executioner, Hermione whispered. Did you see how he looked down the hall? Like he heard something we didn't. Harry did not answer. He had noticed it too. The Ministry noticed. It started with letters. Then it became visitors. Dolores Umbridge arrived with a smile that looked sweet until you watched it for more than 2 seconds. She wore pink. She carried papers, like they were weapons. She met Dumbledore in the entrance hall, flanked by 2 Aurors. Her eyes landed on Jin-Woo at the far end of the hall, where he stood near a window, watching the grounds like a guard. Umbridge's smile grew wider. Headmaster, I do hope you understand how serious this is. Dumbledore's voice stayed mild. You mean, our uninvited guest? Umbridge's laugh sounded like a cough covered by a ribbon. Guest? Albus, do be sensible. An unknown man appears with an army and monsters. The Ministry must take control of the situation. Snape stood a step behind Dumbledore, face unreadable. His eyes flicked to Jin-Woo, then back to Umbridge. McGonagall stiffened. This is a school. Umbridge's eyes snapped to her. Exactly. A school. which is why we cannot allow a thing like that to roam free. Dumbledore's gaze stayed polite. He has not harmed anyone. Umbridge's smile did not move. Not yet. Jin-Woo finally looked over. His eyes met hers. Umbridge felt her stomach dip for half a second. She did not show it. She had dealt with giants, werewolves, and children she could threaten with rules. But this was different. This man looked at her like he could see the shape of her heart. She did not like that. Dumbledore spoke again. Jin-Woo will remain here while we learn what brought him. Hogwarts is protected ground. Umbridge tapped her papers. We will be sending a full report, and we will require cooperation. She turned away with a satisfied little nod, like she had already won. Snape watched her leave. His voice was low. She will return with chains if she thinks it will work. Dumbledore's eyes stayed on the doors. Then we must give her no reason. Snape's gaze shifted to Jin-Woo. And if he gives her a reason? Jin-Woo spoke without turning around. I won't. Snape's eyes narrowed. That is not an answer. It is a promise. Jin-Woo turned then. His shadows did not rise. He did not threaten. He simply looked at Snape with steady eyes. A promise is all you get, he said. For a moment, the room felt tight, like a rope pulled too hard. Dumbledore broke it gently. We will proceed with caution. All of us. That night, Voldemort tested the waters. Not with an army, not with a direct attack. He sent fear. Dementors drifted near the edge of the grounds, just far enough that the wards reacted, but did not fully strike. They were like sharks circling a boat. Harry woke up sweating, scar burning faintly. He sat up, breathing hard, and felt cold in his bones. Down the hall, Jin-Woo's eyes opened in the dark. He sat up slowly. He did not need a scar to feel it. Something was feeding on despair. In his mind, the prompt flickered again, colder than before. Warning, hostile presence. Threat level rising. Jin-Woo stood, pulled on his coat, and stepped into the corridor. A shadow moved along the ceiling like smoke, scouting ahead. Hogwarts was quiet, but the quiet was wrong, like the castle was holding its breath. Jin-Woo walked toward the nearest window and looked out. He saw the Dementors. He had faced creatures that ate people. He had faced monsters that wore fear like a skin. But these things were different. They were not just killers. They were emptiness shaped like a body. A shadow soldier rose beside him, silent. Jin-Woo whispered, almost to himself, "So this world has its own monsters." And somewhere in the darkness beyond the lake, Voldemort listened through his network of spies and curses. He did not know the stranger's limits yet. But he knew one thing. The stranger cared about protecting people. That was a chain Voldemort could pull. The first major gate opened 3 days later, in broad daylight. It tore open above the Quidditch pitch like a crack in the sky. Students screamed and ran. Teachers shouted orders. The air shook with a deep hum that made teeth ache. Madam Hooch blew her whistle by instinct, as if a whistle could fix the sky splitting open. Then the creatures came. They dropped out in waves. Some looked like twisted wolves made of shadow and bone. Some looked like armored bugs the size of desks. Others were shapes that did not hold steady, like smoke trying to become a beast. Spells hit them and did not always work. Stunners bounced off armor. Red jets of light slid over shadow skin like water. A few creatures fell, but too many kept coming. McGonagall's voice cut through the panic. "Students to the castle! Professors, with me!" Kingsley Shacklebolt was there too, along with a small team of Aurors. They had arrived to observe Jin-Woo, but now they had a real problem. Kingsley raised his wand. "Shield line, hold them back!" A barrier formed, bright and trembling, between the pitch and the nearest group of students. It held for 3 seconds. Then a beast slammed into it, and the barrier bent like glass about to break. Harry was running with Hermione and Ron, but he could not stop looking back. The gate was huge. The creatures looked endless. Ron's face was pale. "That's not normal even for us." Hermione's voice shook but stayed focused. "They're resisting magic. Like they're not built on our rules." A scream sounded from the stands. A first year had tripped. Harry's body moved before his brain did. He turned back. But he did not reach the child. A shadow did. It rose from the grass beside the first year like a dark wave, then formed into a tall knight in armor. The knight lifted the child in one motion and placed him behind a group of older students, then turned as a beast lunged. The knight's blade flashed once. The beast hit the ground in two pieces that evaporated into black dust. Harry stopped, stunned. Hermione grabbed his sleeve. "Harry! Move!" More shadows rose. They came from under the benches, from under the goalposts, from the long shadow of the stadium itself. Jin-Woo walked into the open like he was stepping into a familiar job. He did not shout. He did not posture. He raised one hand slightly, and the shadows answered like an army that had been waiting for this call. A line of shadow soldiers formed between the creatures and the fleeing students. Their bodies were solid black but clear in shape. Their eyes glowed. Some carried swords. Some carried spears. Some carried nothing but moved like they could tear steel. A creature charged the line. It hit the shadow wall and stopped, like it had slammed into a moving machine. Behind Jin-Woo, a bigger shadow rose. Beru. Even in this world, Beru's presence felt loud. He leaned forward, head tilting like he was excited. "Master," Beru said in a voice that sounded too cheerful for a battlefield. Jin-Woo spoke quietly. "Protect the students." Beru's grin widened. "Yes." Ron, watching from the edge of the retreating crowd, whispered, "That one is smiling. That's the worst part." Hermione whispered. They listened to him instantly, like they're part of him. Kingsley stared at Jin-Woo like he was seeing a new category of power. The aura next to him muttered, "That's not a wizard." Kingsley did not correct him. He could not. The gate pulsed again. A large creature dropped out. It was taller than a troll, shaped like a knight made of broken stone and black smoke. It landed on the pitch and cracked the ground. Its head turned slowly toward the castle. Then it roared. The roar was not loud. It was heavy. It felt like the air itself was tired. McGonagall's jaw set. All together, teachers aimed wands. A storm of spells hit the creature. Flames, chains, freezing blasts, cutting curses. The creature staggered, but it did not fall. It raised one huge arm and swung. A shockwave blasted across the pitch. Teachers were knocked back. Students screamed again. Jin-Woo moved. He crossed the distance in a blink, not like running, but like the space between him and the creature had stopped mattering. He appeared at the creature's side and drove a punch into its ribs. The impact sounded like a cannon. The creature slid across the grass, carving a long trench. Harry's eyes went wide. He just punched it!" Ron's voice came out thin. "That's not how wizards do things," Hermione whispered, almost awed. "That's how someone who doesn't need spells fights." The creature tried to rise. Jin-Woo lifted his hand again. The air around the creature shivered. The force was invisible, but clear in effect. The creature's body jerked and slammed back down, pinned by pressure like a giant hand. Grass flattened. Dirt cracked. Kingsley's eyes narrowed. "Telekinesis?" Dumbledore arrived at the edge of the pitch, robes billowing, eyes sharp. He took in the scene in one glance. The gate, the monsters, the shadows, the fleeing students, the teachers regrouping. He did not look shocked. He looked like a man calculating how to stop a disaster without losing a child. He raised his wand and sent a wide, glowing shield over the stands to cover the last group of students. Jin-Woo did not look at him. He was already focused on the gate. More creatures poured out behind the stone knight. Smaller ones, fast ones, ones that leapt and crawled. Jin-Woo spoke a single word, quiet, but heavy. Rise. The fallen creatures Jin-Woo had killed on the pitch began to leak shadow. That shadow pulled together, like smoke being sucked into a bottle. Then it formed into new shadow soldiers. Harry felt his stomach twist. It looked wrong. Hermione's breath caught. He's raising them. Ron swallowed hard. That's like... Not the same, Hermione said quickly, but her voice was not sure. Dumbledore's gaze sharpened, not in anger, but in concern. He watched Jin-Woo's face. Jin-Woo did not look happy doing it. He looked practical, like he was building a wall while a flood rushed in. The stone knight broke free of the invisible pressure with brute force and a roar. It charged. Jin-Woo met it head on. He did not trade blows like equals. He controlled the fight. He stepped aside at the last moment. The creature's fist smashed into the ground where Jin-Woo had been, making a crater. Jin-Woo's blade appeared in his hand, like it had been waiting in the dark. He cut once. The creature's arm fell away and turned to dust. The creature howled and swung its other arm. Jin-Woo ducked and drove his blade into the creature's chest. Shadow spread through cracks in the stone body. The creature froze, like it had forgotten how to move. Then it collapsed. The pitch trembled. A hush hit the crowd for half a second. Even the monsters seemed to pause, like they felt the difference between a normal defender and a force built for this. Then the gate pulsed hard again. Something new tried to come through. It was not fully formed. It looked like a tall shape wrapped in tattered darkness, like a Dementor, but heavier, with edges that moved like smoke. It drifted out of the gate and turned its faceless head toward the students. The air grew colder. Students began to cry without knowing why. Harry's heart dropped. He knew that feeling. But this was worse. This was despair, mixed with something hungry. Patronuses flared across the pitch. Silver animals leapt, charged, and pushed back the cold. The new thing did not flee. It took a step forward, right through the silver light, and the Patronus flickered. Hermione gasped. "It's resisting a Patronus!" Kingsley swore. That shouldn't be possible. Jin-Woo felt his own body react, not with fear, but with recognition. This was not a normal monster. This was a creature tied to death in a way his world did not have. He stepped toward it. The thing turned its head toward him. For a moment, Jin-Woo felt something brush the edge of his mind. Not a voice, not words, a pull, like it wanted to take the worst memories inside him and make him drown in them. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. He had walked through worse than memory. He raised his hand. Shadows rose behind him, taller and thicker, like a curtain. The despair wave hit the shadows and slowed, like it had run into a wall. Jin-Woo took another step, and another. Then he vanished. He appeared behind the creature, blade already moving. He cut through its torso. The creature did not bleed. It tore like smoke. It tried to reform, but Jin-Woo's shadows wrapped around it and held it tight, like chains made of night. Jin-Woo's voice was calm. "You're not from my world." The creature's head turned slowly, as if hearing him without ears. Jin-Woo tightened his grip. The creature collapsed into shadow dust and sank into the ground. The cold eased, but it did not vanish completely. Dumbledore felt it too. A residue, a leftover stain. The gate shuddered. Jin-Woo looked up. He did not try to close it with magic. He did not have that kind of control over this world. So he did what he always did. He cleared. He sent his shadow soldiers into the gate. Not all of them. Enough. They plunged into the dark opening like divers into deep water. For a second, the gate pulsed like a heart trying to fight. Then it began to shrink. The monsters outside screamed and staggered as if the source of their strength was being cut. McGonagall shouted, "Now!" Teachers poured spells into the shrinking tear. Binding, sealing, warding. They did not fully understand what they were sealing, but they understood one thing. The hole must close. The gate snapped shut with a loud crack. Silence hit again, harder than before. Students stood frozen. Teachers panted. The grass was torn up. The Quidditch pitch looked like a battlefield. Jin-Woo stood in the middle of it, coat fluttering, face still calm. A few shadows returned from the gate and melted into the ground near him, like soldiers coming home. But not all of them returned. Jin-Woo's gaze stayed on the air where the gate had been. His jaw tightened slightly. He had sent shadows inside. He had lost some. That meant something was still there. Something deeper. Near the center of the pitch, where the gate had closed, a small object clinked onto the grass. It looked like a shard of black stone, etched with a thin, twisting mark. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat you could not hear. Hermione saw it and felt her stomach drop. That's like an anchor. Dumbledore stepped forward, eyes narrowed. He did not touch it. He only looked. Snape arrived moments later, cloak snapping behind. Him. Eyes locked on the shard. "Of course," he murmured, voice sharp with suspicion. "A leftover. A link." Kingsley stared at Jin-Woo. This wasn't random, was it? Jin-Woo did not answer right away. In his mind, the system prompt flickered again, colder and more direct. Anomaly confirmed. Dungeon rules merging. Jin-Woo finally spoke, voice low. "Someone is making these gates." Dumbledore's eyes met his. "In our world or yours?" Jin-Woo looked down at the shard. His shadow moved slightly, like it wanted to cover it. "I don't know," he said. Yet. Far from Hogwarts, Voldemort held a small silver cup in his hand and watched a faint tremor pass through it. He smiled. The gate had closed, yes, but the anchor remained. And now he knew the stranger's secret, at least in part. The stranger's power touched death. Voldemort's favorite subject. "Find out who he is," Voldemort whispered into the dark. "Find his limits. Find what he protects." He did not plan to fight Sung Jin-Woo like a normal enemy. He planned to use the rules of this world, and to bend the newcomers' rules until they broke. The next morning, the Quidditch pitch looked like it had been hit by a storm. The grass was ripped up in long scars. A goalpost leaned at a bad angle. Bits of black dust still clung to the dirt in places, like soot that would not wash away. Madame Hooch stood with her hands on her hips, staring at the damage like it was personal. Hermione walked with Harry and Ron along the edge of the pitch, keeping her voice low. Teachers and Aurors were everywhere. Some were repairing. Some were arguing. Some were just staring at the empty air where the gate had been. "It doesn't make sense," Hermione whispered. "A gate like that doesn't match any spell pattern. It didn't feel like apparition. It didn't feel like a portkey. It felt like something forcing a hole open." Ron rubbed his arms. It felt like the air wanted to crawl away. Harry's eyes kept darting to the center of the pitch, to the spot where the black shard had landed. He had seen Professor Flitwick put a glass dome over it. He had seen Dumbledore lay down wards that glowed faintly like lines of pale gold. And he had seen Jin-Woo stand there, silent, like a man watching a problem he could not punch. People kept looking at Jin-Woo. Some looked like they were grateful. Some looked like they wanted to lock him in a basement. A third year walked past and whispered loudly, "He raised the monsters." Hermione turned. "He stopped them," she snapped. "All of you would be dead if he hadn't." The third year flinched and hurried away. Ron muttered, "They're not going to care about that." They'll care about the creepy bit. Hermione wanted to argue, but she knew Ron was right. Wizards had rules burned into their heads, and one of the biggest rules was about death. Raising anything that looked dead made people panic. Hermione stared at the glass dome over the shard. The twisting mark on it looked like a thin scar. It pulsed, slow and steady, like it was alive. She swallowed. That thing is still doing something. Harry's scar prickled faintly, not a sharp pain, more like a warning tap. He did not say it out loud. He did not want to. In Dumbledore's office, the air felt tense in a quiet way. The silver instruments on the shelves clicked and spun like nervous insects. Fawkes watched from his perch, head tilted, eyes bright. Dumbledore stood by the window, hands behind his back, looking out over the grounds. He looked calm, but he had not slept much. You could see it in the stillness of his shoulders. McGonagall stood at the desk with a stack of parchment. Parents are sending owls. Some demand their children come home. Some demand we expel him. She did not say Jin-Woo's name, but it hung in the room anyway. Dumbledore sighed. Fear travels quickly. Snape leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Fear is sometimes useful. It makes people honest. McGonagall's eyes flashed. It makes people cruel. The door opened without a knock. Dolores Umbridge walked in like she owned the room. 2 ministry wizards followed, carrying a metal case between them. "Albus!" Umbridge sang. "What a terrible shame about the Quidditch pitch. Children endangered. Such a scandal." Dumbledore turned, polite. "Good morning, Dolores." Umbridge's smile did not reach her eyes. "I'm here for the object, the shard. Ministry property now, since it is clearly connected to a breach in public safety." McGonagall's voice went sharp. "It appeared on school grounds." Umbridge clasped her hands. "And school grounds are under ministry oversight when a crisis occurs. We have procedures." Snape's eyes narrowed. "Procedures that involve taking evidence before we understand it." Umbridge looked delighted. "Severus, dear, you always were so practical." Dumbledore's gaze stayed mild. "I'm afraid I must decline. For now." The smile on Umbridge's face stiffened. "Decline?" Dumbledore nodded. "Until we know what it is, it stays where it landed. Here." Umbridge's cheeks colored slightly. "This is not optional." Dumbledore's tone did not change. "It is." The ministry wizards shifted behind her. One cleared his throat, like he wanted to be anywhere else. Umbridge breathed in. She looked at Dumbledore as if she was deciding how much force she could use today. Then her eyes slid to the side. Jin-Woo stood near the bookshelf, silent, like he had been there the whole time. His presence made the room feel smaller. Umbridge's smile returned, brighter and sharper. "Ah, there he is." Jin-Woo looked at her without expression. Umbridge stepped closer, careful to keep space between them, like she did not want to be in arm's reach. "Young man, I'm sure you understand how alarming you are?" Jin-Woo blinked once. "No." Umbridge's smile twitched. "You command an army. You summon creatures. You move like a weapon." "I protected your children," Jin-Woo said. Umbridge's eyes hardened. "And yet you brought danger to them." "I did not open the gate," he said. Umbridge lifted a finger, like she was teaching a class. "We don't know that." Snape's lips curled, almost amused. He did not like Jin-Woo, but he disliked Umbridge more. Dumbledore stepped forward slightly. "Dolores, if you have questions, you may ask them. If you have orders, you may deliver them to the board." Umbridge's voice turned sweet again. "Oh, I will. And in the meantime, I'll be placing a ministry-appointed inspector at Hogwarts to ensure our dear children remain safe." McGonagall's face went pale with anger. "You can't." Umbridge cut her off with a bright laugh. "Oh, but I can." Then she turned to Jin-Woo. "You will be monitored." Jin-Woo's eyes stayed steady. I already am. Umbridge smiled like she had won something. Good. We understand each other. She left with her people, the metal case still unopened in their hands. When the door shut, McGonagall spoke through her teeth. She's going to turn this into a circus. Dumbledore nodded. Yes. Snape's eyes stayed on the door. She will push until someone pushes back. Then she will call it proof. Jin-Woo spoke quietly. Then I won't push back. Snape turned sharply. You think you can simply refuse the trap? Jin-Woo looked at him. I've survived worse traps. Snape's gaze did not soften. This is a school full of children. Your worst traps were not built with paperwork and public fear. Dumbledore's eyes flicked to Snape, then to Jin-Woo. Severus is right about one thing. This world fights with more than spells. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened slightly. I know. He did not. Not fully. But he knew enough to feel the danger. By midday, the Daily Prophet had done what it always did. It turned a confusing truth into a simple nightmare. Hermione saw the paper floating over a table in the Great Hall. The headline was huge. The moving photo showed the Quidditch pitch burning in black smoke, the worst moment captured and looped. Shadow necromancer at Hogwarts! Hermione's stomach turned. Ron read over her shoulder and groaned. They used the word necromancer. Of course they did. Harry stared at the moving photo. In it, Jin-Woo stood with shadows rising behind him. The picture did not show him saving students. It did not show him holding the line while teachers regrouped. It only showed the Black Army. Hermione crumpled the paper in her hands. This is going to make everything worse. At the staff table, McGonagall looked like she wanted to set the newspaper on fire. Flitwick looked worried. Sprout looked tired. Dumbledore's face stayed calm, but his eyes were distant. Jin-Woo sat at the far end of the hall, not at the staff table, not with the students. He sat alone, like a visitor who did not belong in either place. A few students stared at him like he was a monster in a cage. A few stared like he was a hero. Most stared because they did not know what else to do. Baru's shadow rose behind Jin-Woo's chair for half a second, then sank again, like it was offended. Ron whispered, Is he eating? Harry blinked. Jin-Woo had a plate in front of him. He was not eating much. He was just moving food around like he was thinking. Hermione whispered back, He's probably never eaten in a place like this. Ron's face pinched. That makes me feel bad. Stop making me feel bad. Harry watched Jin-Woo's eyes. They kept flicking to doors, corners, windows. He looked like he was waiting for something to come through. Harry understood that feeling too well. That evening, Hermione went to the library with a mission. If the wizarding world was going to panic, she wanted facts. She pulled books on dark magic, defensive magic, dimensional theory, and anything about the Department of Mysteries. She built a stack so tall it looked like it might fall and crush her. Ron dropped into the chair across from her. You're doing the Hermione thing again. Hermione did not look up. Yes. Harry sat beside her, scanning the room. You think the shard is connected to the Ministry? Hermione flipped a page. I think it could be connected to anything that studies the edges, time, death, prophecy, anything that deals with weird rules. Ron leaned in. Okay, but what does that have to do with him? Hermione hesitated. Then she spoke, careful. He said his world has gates. Monsters come through. That means his world has a system of openings. Maybe our world has a place that touches openings too. Harry's scar prickled again, like it agreed. A shadow moved at the edge of the library light. Hermione looked up fast. Jin-Woo stood near the entrance, silent, watching the shelves like he could smell danger in paper. Madam Pince hurried up to him, face pinched. No loitering. No. Creatures. Jin-Woo blinked. I'm not a creature. Madam Pince huffed. You are certainly not a student. Jin-Woo gave a small nod like she had a point. Then he walked toward Hermione's table. Harry sat up straighter. Ron whispered, He's coming here. Why is he coming here? Hermione's heart sped up, but she forced her face to stay calm. If she panicked, she would be no better than the newspaper. Jin-Woo stopped beside their table. He looked down at the open books. You're studying the shard, he said. Hermione's eyes widened. How did you? I can tell what worries you, Jin-Woo said. It was not a brag. It was a fact. Harry swallowed. We want to know what it is. Jin-Woo's gaze shifted to Harry. He held it for a moment longer than he held most people's. Like he sensed something on Harry, too. Something familiar. A mark. A pull. You have something connected to your enemy, Jin-Woo said quietly. Harry's blood went cold. What? Ron's eyes went wide. Mate! Hermione's mind raced. You can sense. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed slightly. It's like a hook. It pulls when danger is near. Harry touched his forehead without thinking. Yeah. Jin-Woo looked back at the books. You should be careful. If someone can open gates here, they can use fear. Hermione swallowed. We know. Jin-Woo paused, then said something that surprised her. I want to understand your magic, he said. Not to take it, to survive it. Hermione blinked. That's fair. Ron muttered. Finally, someone is honest. Jin-Woo looked at Ron. Are you always like this? Ron bristled. Like what? Loud when scared, Jin-Woo said. Ron's mouth opened. Then he shut it. Rude. For the first time, Harry saw a tiny shift in Jin-Woo's face. Not a smile, exactly. Just the smallest sign that he understood the joke. Then Jin-Woo's expression went serious again. If your ministry takes the shard, he said, it may become easier to open another gate. Hermione's breath caught. Because they'll poke it. Jin-Woo nodded. People always poke dangerous things. Ron stared. So what do we do? Jin-Woo's gaze moved to the library windows. The sky outside had darkened. The grounds were quiet again. I patrol, Jin-Woo said. Hermione frowned. Patrol? He looked back at her. It's what I do. I protect zones. I watch for openings. Ron whispered to Harry. He talks like he's got a list in his head. Harry whispered back. Maybe he does. Hermione took a breath. If you patrol, you might learn where the gate pressure builds. Jin-Woo's eyes sharpened. Yes. Hermione felt a strange spark of excitement, even with fear pressing on her. A plan. Something to do. Then the library lights flickered. All three of them froze. Jin-Woo's head turned toward the ceiling like he heard a sound no one else did. His voice dropped. Something is here. And the room grew colder. Not just cold air. Cold feeling. Harry's chest tightened. He heard a distant, wet breath in his mind. A memory of the last time a Dementor came too close. Hermione's hands shook. She tried to steady them. Ron stood up so fast his chair scraped. From the far end of the library, a shape slid out of the shadows between tall shelves. It was not a Dementor, but it felt like one. Tall. Thin. Wrapped in darkness that moved like smoke. No face. Just a hollow where a face should be. Madam Pince opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed onto a chair, shaking. Students began to sob without knowing why. The thing drifted forward, drawn to fear like a moth to light. Jin-Woo stepped between it and the students. His shadow rose behind him like a wall. The creature stopped for half a second, like it had bumped into something it did not understand. Harry saw Jin-Woo's hand lower slightly. A shadow soldier rose, then another, then another. silently forming a line between the creature and the library. Hermione forced herself to speak. "A Patronus!" Harry nodded, but his wand felt heavy in his hand. Fear pressed on his thoughts, trying to make him small. He thought of light, of warmth, of people he loved. "Expecto Patronum!" Silver light burst from his wand. A stag leapt forward, bright and strong, charging the creature. The creature did not flee. It shuddered, as if annoyed, then drifted sideways. The stag's horns passed through it and flickered. Hermione's stomach dropped. "It's not reacting like a Dementor," Ron's voice cracked. "Then what is it?" Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. He looked almost angry now. Not rage, protective anger. The creature drifted toward a crying first year, drawn to the strongest fear. Jin-Woo moved. He vanished from where he stood and appeared beside the first year, scooping the child back behind him with one arm. Then his blade flashed. The creature split like torn cloth, but it did not die. It tried to reform, pulling itself together. Jin-Woo lifted his hand. Dark chains shot from the floor, wrapping the creature tight. It thrashed, but the chains held. The air around it screamed without sound. Hermione stared, heart pounding. That looked like dark magic, but it also looked like a net saving people from drowning. Jin-Woo's voice was low. "This is connected to the gate," Harry swallowed. "It came through the shard?" Jin-Woo shook his head. "No, it was already here. It was waiting." The creature's head turned toward Harry. Harry felt something inside him twist, like it recognized him too. Then it happened. The creature stopped fighting the chains. Instead, it sank into the floor like it was melting away, slipping out of Jin-Woo's grip. Jin-Woo's eyes widened slightly. He lunged, but the creature was already gone, leaving only cold air and a faint smear of black dust. Silence hit the library. Slowly, students stopped crying. Madame Pince blinked awake, gasping like she had been underwater. Hermione's hands shook badly now. She sat down hard, breathing fast. Ron's voice came out thin. "It escaped." Jin-Woo stared at the floor where it vanished. It learned. Harry's scar prickled. Stronger now. Hermione swallowed. "This isn't just a random monster attack." Jin-Woo's eyes stayed on the shadow stain. "Someone is testing how this world reacts, and how I react." And in the darkness far beyond Hogwarts, Voldemort smiled, without anyone seeing it. He had not thrown an army at the stranger. He had thrown a question. The next day, the politics hit harder. Umbridge posted a new decree on the wall near the Great Hall. It was bright and loud, like she wanted it to be seen from across the castle. It declared that unsafe entities would be restricted from free movement for student safety. Students gathered around it, whispering. Hermione read it and felt her face heat with anger. "She means him," Ron snorted. "She means anyone she doesn't control." Harry watched Jin-Woo from across the hall. Jin-Woo read the decree without expression. Then he turned and walked away, like the paper did not matter. But Harry could tell it did matter. It mattered because it could be used. It mattered because Jin-Woo's calm was being turned into a cage. That night, Dumbledore met Jin-Woo again in his office. Snape was there too, like a shadow of his own. Dumbledore spoke softly. "You have become the center of our world's attention, whether you wish it or not." Jin-Woo's voice was quiet. "I've been the center before." Snape's eyes narrowed. "In your world, you could solve problems by killing monsters." Jin-Woo looked at him. "I still can." Snape's voice sharpened. "Here, the monster might be a law, or a rumor." Jin-Woo did not answer for a moment. Then he said, "In my world, people also used fear." Snape's gaze held his. "And what did you do?" Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. I protected people anyway. Dumbledore's eyes softened. Then do that here. But don't underestimate what fear makes people do. Jin-Woo nodded once. As he left, a cold, flat prompt flickered through his mind. Daily quest. Patrol. Prevent casualties. Hidden objective. Identify gate anchor. Jin-Woo paused in the corridor. Hidden objective. He hated that. He hated being pushed by a system he did not fully trust. But he hated children dying more. So he kept walking. And as he walked, he made a decision. He would not wait for the next gate to appear. He would hunt the source. Hogwarts changed when someone like Jin-Woo decided to treat it like a dungeon. He did not say the word out loud. He did not need to. He moved through the castle the way he moved through dangerous buildings in his own world. Slow, alert, always counting exits. He watched the moving stairs like they were traps. He watched the portraits like they were cameras. He listened to the walls, and he placed shadows. Not in classrooms, not in bathrooms, not where children had privacy, but in corridors, entry points, windows, empty halls at night. He built a net. It was the kind of net that made monsters regret showing up. It also made teachers uneasy, because even if they couldn't see it, some of them could feel it. On the third night of his new routine, Harry caught him on a staircase landing near a window. Jin-Woo was staring at the darkness outside. His hands were still. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. Harry cleared his throat. "You're really doing it." Jin-Woo glanced at him. "Doing what?" "Patrolling," Harry said. Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Hermione appeared behind Harry, holding a small bag stuffed with books and parchment. Ron followed, grumbling. Ron glanced around. "Why are we meeting the scary shadow guy in a corridor at midnight again?" Hermione hissed. "Because you agreed." Ron muttered. "I agreed under pressure." Jin-Woo looked at them all. "You want answers?" Hermione nodded quickly. "We do." Jin-Woo's gaze sharpened. "Then you come with me." Ron's mouth fell open. "What?" Harry's heart thumped. "Where?" Jin-Woo's eyes flicked to the shadows along the wall. "To where the castle hides its edges." Hermione swallowed. That could mean anything. Jin-Woo started walking. "Then keep up." Ron hurried after him. This is how people die in horror stories. Harry followed, because he could not help it. Because when danger came, Harry's body always moved toward it. Jin-Woo led them through a part of Hogwarts that felt older than the rest. The corridors narrowed. The stone looked darker. The air felt thicker. Hermione whispered, "We're under the castle." Ron whispered back, "Brilliant. We're going to get eaten by a basement." Jin-Woo did not slow down. His shadow slid ahead of him like a scout. Harry noticed something strange. The castle's moving stairs did not move here. The portraits did not talk here. It was quiet in a way Hogwarts usually never was. Hermione clutched her bag tighter. "This place, it doesn't feel like normal Hogwarts magic." Jin-Woo nodded. "It feels like a boundary." He stopped at a wall that looked solid. Ron frowned. "That's a wall." Jin-Woo touched the stone with 2 fingers. His shadow rose and slid into the cracks. For a second, nothing happened. Then the wall shivered. A thin line appeared, the same kind of thin line that had opened in the forest. Hermione's eyes widened. "You're doing it." Jin-Woo shook his head. "No, I'm finding it." The line widened into a narrow doorway. Cold air poured out. Ron backed up a step. "Nope." Harry's scar prickled. Hermione whispered, "That's not a normal hidden passage." Jin-Woo stepped through first. Harry followed without thinking. Hermione and Ron hesitated for a heartbeat, then went in after. The space beyond was not a corridor. It was a chamber. The ceiling was high. The walls were lined with old stone arches that led to nothing. Just darkness. like doorways that opened into black cloth. In the center of the chamber sat something that made Hermione's breath catch. A tall stone archway. Not as tall as the one in the Ministry legends, but shaped the same way. Old. Worn. Like it had been here forever. A thin curtain of darkness hung inside it, moving like fabric in a wind you could not feel. Ron's voice cracked. "What is that?" Hermione's mouth felt dry. "It looks like the veil." Harry stared, skin prickling. He felt like someone was standing behind him, whispering his name. It was not real, but it felt real. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, careful. The air near the archway felt wrong, not evil, just thin, like the world was stretched. Hermione whispered, "This is death magic, or something close." Ron swallowed. "Why is this in Hogwarts?" Hermione's voice shook. Maybe it was hidden here. Or maybe it was built here. Jin-Woo's hand lifted slightly. His shadow rose, reaching toward the veil like a cautious animal. The darkness inside the archway responded. It pulled. Not hard. Just enough to show it was awake. Jin-Woo's eyes hardened. "This is a door." Hermione nodded, terrified and thrilled at the same time. "A door to where?" Jin-Woo did not answer, because he felt it now. The same pressure as the gate, the same pull as the shard, the same cold hunger as the library creature, all connected. His mind flashed a prompt, sharp and clear. Dungeon discovered. Hidden boss room. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. Someone is feeding this. Harry's voice came out quiet. "Voldemort." Hermione looked at Harry, then at the archway, then back. "How do you know?" Harry swallowed. "Because my scar is doing the thing." Ron whispered, "The thing." Jin-Woo turned slightly, eyes cutting across the chamber. "We're not alone." Hermione froze. "What?" Jin-Woo raised his hand. Shadows rose around them, forming silent guards. Then something moved inside one of the smaller dark arches lining the wall. A shape stepped out. It was a wizard. A Death Eater, mask on, wand raised. Behind him, two more stepped out of shadows like they had been waiting. Ron gasped. "How did they get in here?" Hermione's mind raced. "They must have found this place too. Or they were guarding it." The Death Eater's voice came through the mask, taunting. "So the rumors are true. The Shadow Man brings children to the deep places." Harry's hand tightened on his wand. "Leave." The Death Eater laughed. "The Dark Lord will be pleased. The boy who lived, gift-wrapped." Hermione's stomach dropped. They were not here by accident. This was a trap. Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. "You used the gate to lure us." The Death Eater's wand flicked. A curse shot toward Harry. Jin-Woo moved so fast Harry barely saw it. Jin-Woo's hand swiped, and the curse bent mid-air like it hit an invisible wall, slamming into stone instead. The Death Eaters froze for half a second. Then they attacked together. Spells flew, green, red, white, each one meant to kill or bind. Hermione threw up a shield charm. It cracked under the pressure. Ron shouted a jinx that knocked one Death Eater back a step. Harry fired a stunning spell, hitting another in the shoulder. But Jin-Woo was the real storm. Shadows surged forward, not wild, but controlled, like trained fighters. Igris appeared with a silent step, blade in hand, and intercepted curses like they were slow arrows. Baru burst in next, moving too fast, knocking a Death Eater's wand away with a slap that sent it skittering across the floor. The masked wizard tried to apparate. He failed. The air snapped like a hand closing. Jin-Woo's shadow chains pinned the Death Eater's feet to the stone. Ron stared. He just stopped apparition." Hermione's eyes wide, whispered, "The shadow is anchoring him." The Death Eater snarled and pointed his wand at Jin-Woo. "Av!" He did not finish. Jin-Woo crossed the space and hit him once. Not a punch to kill. A strike to break balance. The Death Eater slammed into the wall and slid down, dazed. The other two tried to retreat into the arches. Jin-Woo's voice was cold. "No!" Shadows rose like doors closing. One Death Eater fired a curse at Hermione in panic. Harry saw it and felt his stomach drop. Jin-Woo's shadow moved first, blocking it with a black shield. The curse splashed and burned into smoke. Hermione sucked in a breath, shaking. The Death Eater stared at Jin-Woo, voice trembling now. "What are you?" Jin-Woo's eyes were calm and terrifying. "Someone who clears monsters," the Death Eater spat. "Then clear this." He slammed his wand into the floor. The veil in the center archway shuddered. The curtain of darkness rippled like it had been hit. And something reached out. Not a hand. A feeling. A pull. The chamber grew colder. The lights in Hermione's wand flickered. Harry heard whispers again, louder now, like voices behind a door. Ron clutched his head. "Stop! Stop that!" Hermione's face went pale. "He's trying to open it!" Jin-Woo's gaze snapped to the veil. The darkness inside the archway bulged outward for a second, like it was trying to spill into the room. A tall shadow shape began to form, thin and hungry. Jin-Woo stepped forward, jaw tight. This was not a normal monster. This was something tied to death itself. He could fight it. He could cut it. But he could not let it touch the kids. Jin-Woo lifted his hand, and every shadow soldier in the chamber turned toward the veil at once. They formed a ring around it, like a seal. Then Jin-Woo's power surged. The shadows thickened, pressing inward, forcing the veil to stay inside its frame. The forming creature thrashed, but it could not cross the line. The Death Eater laughed weakly. "You can't stop death." Jin-Woo looked over his shoulder, eyes hard. "I can stop you." Beru slammed the Death Eater's wand hand down, pinning it. Harry stepped forward, wand raised. "Tell Voldemort this won't work." The Death Eater's head tilted. "Oh, it already is!" His eyes rolled back. He bit down on something. Harry shouted, "Wait!" Too late. The Death Eater's body went limp. Hermione's stomach turned. He had poison. Ron swallowed. They always have poison. Jin-Woo stared at the body. His fingers twitched slightly. Harry saw it. Hermione saw it too. They all knew what Jin-Woo could do. He could raise shadows. He could pull answers from dead enemies. Ron's voice came out small. "Don't," Hermione's eyes begged. "Please, don't do it to him in front of us." Harry's throat tightened. He wanted answers more than anything. He wanted to know Voldemort's plan. He wanted to stop the war. But he also remembered what it felt like to watch someone mess with death. Jin-Woo's face did not change, but something inside him shifted. He looked at the dead Death Eater. Then he looked at Harry. Then at Hermione. Then at Ron. His voice was quiet. "I won't raise innocence." Hermione swallowed. He wasn't innocent. Jin-Woo nodded once. Not innocent. He paused. "But I won't do it in front of children, and I won't make it normal." Ron blinked. "We're not children." Jin-Woo looked at him. "You are." Ron opened his mouth to argue, then shut it, because some part of him knew Jin-Woo was right. Jin-Woo turned back to the veil. The darkness was still pushing. He could feel it, like a storm behind a door. He spoke low, almost to himself. "This place is a crack. Someone is widening it." Hermione's voice shook. "How do we seal it?" Jin-Woo stared at the archway, thinking like a hunter. "In my world," he said, "you killed the boss." Harry's scar burned sharply, like it agreed again. Hermione's mind raced. The boss could be the person feeding it. Voldemort. Ron swallowed. "So, we just kill Voldemort." Hermione shot him a look. "Ron!" Ron threw up his hands. "I'm saying it's hard." Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed at the veil. Then we cut the anchor. Hermione's breath caught. The shard. Jin-Woo nodded. And whatever else ties this door to your world. Harry looked at the dead Death Eater, then at the veil. This was a message. Jin-Woo's voice stayed steady. Yes, they wanted you here, Hermione whispered. Why? Jin-Woo's eyes were cold. Because you are the weakness. Harry's heart dropped. Jin-Woo's gaze moved to Harry's forehead. And because you are the key. Harry swallowed hard. For a second, the veil bulged again. Stronger now. Jin-Woo's shadows strained, his eyes sharpened. We leave. Now. Hermione nodded fast. How do we close the passage? Jin-Woo lifted his hand. Shadow surged into the doorway they came through, thickening it like a lid. The crack in the wall shrank, forcing itself shut with a low groan of stone. The chamber did not vanish. It stayed, hidden again. But as the crack sealed, the veil inside the room pulsed once, like a heartbeat, like it was happy. When they returned to the main part of Hogwarts, the warm torchlight felt unreal. Students laughed in a hallway nearby, unaware that a death door sat under their feet. Hermione's hands shook as she walked. Ron kept rubbing his arms. Harry's scar kept prickling in short, warning pulses. Jin-Woo walked in front, silent. At the top of a staircase landing, he stopped. He looked out over the castle. Then, inside his mind, the prompt returned. Quest updated. Eliminate anchor. Prevent gate cascade. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. He hated the word quest, but he did not hate the goal. He turned to Harry, Hermione, and Ron. You don't tell anyone, Jin-Woo said. Hermione blinked. Not even Dumbledore. Jin-Woo held her gaze. Dumbledore can know. Snape can know. But not the Ministry. Ron frowned. Because Umbridge will poke it. Jin-Woo nodded. And because your enemy is listening. Harry swallowed. He always is. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. Then we move before he moves. Hermione took a shaky breath. Okay, we need a plan. We need to study the shard, and the veil chamber, and… Jin-Woo's voice cut through, calm and firm. We need to patrol. Ron groaned softly. There it is again. Patrol. Jin-Woo looked at Ron. It works. Ron wanted to argue, but he couldn't, because the truth was simple. If Jin-Woo had not patrolled, a gate would have eaten the school. And if he did not patrol now, something worse would come through that veil. Far away, Voldemort's smile widened. He had found a door. He had found a pressure point. And now he knew exactly how to pull it. The Shadow Man would run toward danger every time. So Voldemort would not chase him. He would lead him. 2 weeks passed, and Hogwarts started to learn a new rhythm. It was not a peaceful rhythm. It was more like a castle learning how to breathe while holding a shield. Sung Jin-Woo moved through the halls every night. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. He walked the same routes again and again until the castle stopped feeling like a mystery and started feeling like a map. He learned which staircases shifted most often. He learned which windows were weak points. He learned how far the wards reached before the air felt thin. He placed his shadows like quiet candles in dark corners. Not in bedrooms, not in bathrooms, not where students could ever feel watched, only in places where danger would enter. Corridors, doorways, empty halls, the edges. In his mind, the prompts kept coming, like a clock that would not stop. Daily quest, patrol, prevent casualties. At first it annoyed him, then it became a tool. He did not obey it because it told him to. He did it because the result matched what he already believed. Protect the people who can't protect themselves. That was the rule he trusted. One night, Ron Weasley found him near a window on the 3rd floor. Ron had a cloak pulled tight around his shoulders and a look on his face like he regretted waking up. Ron stopped a few steps away. So, you do this every night, Jin-Woo did not look away from the grounds. Yes. Ron rubbed his arms. Does your thing tell you to do it? Jin-Woo's eyes shifted to Ron. My thing? Ron waved his hands. You know, the invisible list in your head. Jin-Woo paused. Then he said, flat and honest, it reminds me. Ron frowned. That sounds awful. It is, Jin-Woo said. Then after a beat, he added, it also saves lives. Ron stared at him, then muttered, fine, still awful. A shadow moved near Ron's shoes, like a quiet cat. Ron jumped. Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. Relax, he's watching the stairs. Ron glared. Tell him to watch somewhere else. The shadow slid away like it was offended. Ron sighed. So you're basically Hogwarts security. Jin-Woo looked back out the window. Someone has to be. Ron hesitated, then asked the question he had been avoiding. Do you ever get bored? Jin-Woo's jaw tightened slightly. No. Ron blinked. That was fast. Jin-Woo's eyes stayed on the dark sky. If I get bored, people die. Ron swallowed and looked away. Right. Yeah. Fair. Down in the courtyard, a group of Aurors walked the perimeter now, posted by the Ministry for Safety. They looked more like guards than helpers. Hogwarts had always been a fortress. Now it looked like a fortress under inspection. Hermione's routine changed too. She still went to classes. She still did homework. But every free moment turned into research. She and Harry had mapped every strange, cold spot they could find in the castle. Ron grumbled, but he always showed up anyway. They kept their biggest discovery quiet. The hidden chamber under Hogwarts, the stone archway with the moving curtain of darkness, the door that felt like death. Dumbledore knew. Snape knew. Kingsley knew, after Dumbledore decided the war had gotten too big for secrets inside secrets. The Ministry did not know. Umbridge would have called it a dangerous artifact and demanded it be transported. She would have handed it to the Department of Mysteries with a smile and a stamp, and she would have poked it until it screamed. So Hermione swallowed her fear and kept quiet. It was hard, because the castle was buzzing with rumors. Students whispered about shadow soldiers hiding in walls. Some claimed they saw red eyes in the corners. Others said Jin-Woo was stealing souls. Someone even tried to claim he was Voldemort in disguise. Hermione wanted to shout at all of them. Instead, she worked, because shouting never stopped a gate. One afternoon, she found Harry in the library, with his head resting on a book. His eyes were open, but distant. His scar looked a little red. Hermione sat beside him. Dream again. Harry nodded once. Not a clear one, just cold. And a door. And him laughing. Hermione's throat tightened. He's still trying to pull you. Harry swallowed. Yeah. Hermione glanced around the library, then lowered her voice. Jin-Woo says Voldemort is using fear like a string. He pulls it, and people move. Harry forced a weak smile. That sounds like Voldemort. Hermione's face went serious again. We need to move first. Harry looked at her. How? Hermione hesitated. Then she said the risky part. We need information. Real information. Not guesses. Harry's eyes flicked toward the window, toward the grounds, toward the place Jin-Woo patrolled every night. You mean, use him? Hermione shook her head quickly. Not use. Work with. But we need to know what Voldemort is planning, and he's not going to tell us. Harry stared at the book in front of him, like it might have answers written between the lines. Then he whispered, maybe someone already did. Hermione's breath caught. The Death Eater in the chamber. Harry nodded slightly. They both knew what that meant. They both felt sick about it. That night, Dumbledore asked Jin-Woo to come to his office after curfew. Jin-Woo arrived silently, like he always did. His shadows did not show themselves. but Dumbledore could feel them in the room, like invisible guards. Snape stood by the wall, arms crossed, face tight. Kingsley stood near the desk, posture steady, eyes alert. Dumbledore spoke softly. "We need a clearer picture of Voldemort's next move." Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. "He's preparing a bigger opening." Snape's voice cut in, sharp. "We know that. We need details." Jin-Woo looked at Snape. "Then you already know what you're asking me." Snape did not blink. "Yes." Kingsley's voice was lower. "If there's a way to prevent casualties, we take it." Dumbledore's gaze stayed kind, but serious. "Only if you are willing, Jin-Woo." Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. He did not like doing this in a world where people already feared him. But he remembered the library cold. He remembered the Quidditch pitch filling with monsters. He remembered a first-year crying and not understanding why. He nodded once. "Bring the body." Snape's eyes narrowed slightly, like he did not trust the calm in Jin-Woo's voice. Kingsley left and returned a short time later with a covered stretcher, warded and sealed. The air around it felt wrong, like a bad smell you could not name. Hermione was not here. Harry was not here. Ron was not here. That mattered to Jin-Woo. He was not going to make children watch death become a tool. Kingsley pulled the cover back. The Death Eater's body lay still, face pale, eyes closed behind the removed mask. Poison had done its job fast. Dumbledore watched Jin-Woo closely. "Remember, if you sense anything you do not understand, we stop." Jin-Woo did not answer. He simply stepped forward. His shadow spread slightly under his feet, darker than the room's dim light. He reached out his hand, palm down, hovering above the dead man's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the room grew colder, like a deep cellar. A dark thread rose from the body like smoke being pulled upward. Jin-Woo's eyes hardened. His voice was quiet. "Stand." The shadow thread thickened and shaped itself. A form rose from the body and stepped away from it, like a man peeling out of his own skin. It was a shadow soldier now, shaped like the Death Eater, but with hollow dark features and a faint red glow in the eyes. It did not look human. It looked like a weapon wearing a human outline. Snape's jaw tightened. "Merlin." Kingsley's hand flexed near his wand. Dumbledore did not move. He only watched, calm but alert. Jin-Woo spoke to the shadow in a flat command. "Who sent you?" The shadow's head tilted. Its voice came out rough, like gravel dragged across stone. "The Dark Lord." Snape's eyes sharpened. "Of course." Jin-Woo's gaze stayed locked. "What is the plan?" The shadow hesitated, like something inside it was resisting. Jin-Woo's power pressed down, not cruel, just firm, like a grip that would not loosen. The shadow spoke again. "Open the door." Dumbledore's eyes narrowed. "Which door?" The shadow lifted its head toward the floor, as if it could see through stone. "The veil." Kingsley swore softly. "He knows it's here." Snape's lips curled. He always knows more than he should. Jin-Woo's voice stayed steady. "When?" The shadow's words came out like it was repeating something drilled into it. "Inspection day. The Pink Woman. The school will be busy. Fear will be high. The anchor will be fed." Dumbledore's face went still. "Dolores." Snape's eyes flashed. "She'll bring half the ministry with her, like a parade." Kingsley's voice went hard. "We need to shut down the visit." Dumbledore shook his head slightly. "She will come anyway. If we refuse, she will come with force." Jin-Woo's gaze tightened. "Where will the gate open?" The shadow's head turned slightly, as if tasting the memory. "Two places. Above. Below." Dumbledore's voice was quiet. "Hogwarts and the Ministry." The shadow spoke again. "A diversion at the school. The true opening at the Department of Mysteries." Kingsley's eyes narrowed. To steal the veil? Snape's voice was cold. Or to use it? Jin-Woo asked the last question, the one that mattered most. Why Harry Potter? The shadow's red eyes flicked. Key. Harry's name in that room felt like a blade laid on a table. Dumbledore's voice softened, but the edge was there. Thank you, Jin-Woo. That is enough. Jin-Woo looked down at the shadow soldier. He could keep pressing. He could squeeze more details out. But he felt something else now. A thin, sharp pull, like a hook at the edge of the room. Like someone far away had noticed the shadow speaking. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. He's listening. Snape's eyes widened slightly. How? Jin-Woo snapped his fingers once. The shadow soldier collapsed into black dust and sank into the floor. The cold eased instantly. Dumbledore exhaled slowly. That was wise. Jin-Woo's voice was quiet. We have limited time. Kingsley nodded. Then we plan. Snape's gaze stayed on Jin-Woo. And you do not go anywhere alone. Jin-Woo's eyes were calm. I'm never alone. Snape did, not like the way that sounded, but he could not deny it was true. Inspection day arrived like a bad joke that nobody laughed at. Umbridge marched through the front doors with a wide smile and a group of officials behind her. Clipboards, seals, ministry robes, a photographer from the Prophet, because of course she brought one. Students stared as the group moved down the entrance hall. Teachers stood stiff. McGonagall looked like she might bite someone. Umbridge's voice carried. We are here to ensure the safety of the children. We will be checking all suspicious activity, all unusual entities. Her eyes flicked toward the far end of the hall. Jin-Woo stood there, still as stone, hands at his sides. Behind him, the light looked normal, but Umbridge's skin prickled anyway, like her body knew something her pride refused to admit. Umbridge smiled even wider. There you are. Jin-Woo looked at her without interest. Umbridge turned to the officials. Make note. He is present. One of the officials nodded quickly and did not meet Jin-Woo's eyes. Ron whispered to Harry. I hate her so much. Harry whispered back. Same. Hermione's fingers tightened on her wand in her pocket. She forced herself to breathe. Dumbledore walked with Umbridge, polite as ever, like he was guiding a guest through a museum. But his eyes were sharp. Snape moved through the hall like a shadow. Kingsley stood at a distance with Aurors, pretending to be part of the inspection. Everything looked controlled. That was the point. Voldemort wanted everyone to feel safe enough to be careless. Jin-Woo felt it before anyone else, not because he was smarter, because his instincts were built for openings. His shadow scouts had been restless all morning. They kept brushing against cold spots, like they were sniffing smoke. Then, just as Umbridge's group reached the center of the entrance hall, the air above the marble floor bent. A thin black line appeared. Students screamed. Umbridge froze, smile snapping off her face like a mask falling. The line widened fast, ripping open into a gate right inside Hogwarts. Cold poured out. Monsters spilled through. Not random beasts this time, but shapes built for chaos. Fast ones that leapt at crowds, heavy ones that slammed into walls, shadow wraiths that made people cry and shake. The hall became noise and panic in 2 seconds. Teachers shouted orders. Aurors raised wands. Students ran. Umbridge shrieked, "Protect me!" Jin-Woo moved. His shadow surged out like a flood. Shadow soldiers rose from the floor in a wide circle, forming a moving wall between the monsters and the students. They did not push forward first. They held space. They created safety. Beru appeared beside Jin-Woo with a grin that did not match the danger. "Master," Beru said brightly, like this was a game. Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "Evacuate. No casualties." Beru's grin widened. Yes. Students stumbled toward exits, guided by shadow soldiers that pointed, lifted, blocked, and carried when needed. A shadow knight scooped up a crying second year and handed him to McGonagall like a parcel. McGonagall did not ask questions. She just grabbed the child and shoved him behind a shield line. Dumbledore raised his wand and sent a wide, golden barrier across the hall, sealing off one section to stop the rush. Snape fired sharp, controlled spells to cut off fast monsters without hitting students. His face looked like carved ice. Kingsley roared orders at Aurors. Hold the doorways. Protect the children. Umbridge, pressed against a wall by her own guards, looked around in terror. Her control had vanished. Her paperwork meant nothing to a hole in the world. A shadow wraith drifted toward her, drawn to her fear. Umbridge's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The wraith leaned close. Then it stopped. A shadow soldier stood between it and Umbridge, silent and unmoved. The wraith hissed without a voice. It slid away, frustrated, searching for easier fear. Umbridge's eyes snapped to Jin-Woo. For 1 second, her face showed pure shock. Then her fear twisted into something uglier. She whispered, "This is his fault." But no one listened. They were too busy not dying. Jin-Woo looked up at the gate. It pulsed like a heart. And behind it, he felt something deeper. Not just monsters. A direction. A pull. His mind flashed a prompt, cold and sharp. Gate cascade starting. Secondary sight active. Secondary sight. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. Ministry, he muttered. Harry, still inside the hall near a pillar, heard him. Harry's scar burned sharply at the same moment. Harry's breath hitched. "It's happening!" Hermione grabbed Harry's sleeve. "Harry, don't!" Harry's eyes were wide, focused, half far away. "He's calling me!" Ron's voice cracked. "Mate, no, not again!" Dumbledore's gaze snapped to Harry across the chaos. His eyes widened slightly. He started toward Harry. But a heavy monster slammed into the barrier, and Dumbledore had to brace it, forcing power into the shield to keep it from breaking. Snape saw Harry, too. His eyes went sharp. But Snape was surrounded by chaos and bodies and curses. Voldemort had chosen the moment well. Jin-Woo appeared beside Harry so fast, Hermione barely saw him move. Harry flinched, then looked up at Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo's voice was low. "He's pulling you to the door under the castle." Harry swallowed. "Yeah." Hermione shook her head hard. "We can't go down there right now. The whole school." Jin-Woo cut through gently, but firm. "The school can survive a fight. A door opening can end everything." Ron looked like he wanted to argue, but he could not find words. Jin-Woo's gaze went to Hermione. "You said you wanted a plan." Hermione's throat tightened. "Yes." Jin-Woo looked at Harry. "You stay with me." Harry nodded, because that felt safer than being alone with Voldemort in his head. Jin-Woo turned his head slightly, as if listening to something invisible. A shadow rose near his feet. Ygritte emerged, silent, waiting. Jin-Woo spoke quickly. "Ygritte, Baru, hold this hall. Protect them." Baru slapped his chest proudly. "Yes." Ygritte simply bowed, blade ready. Jin-Woo's gaze went to Dumbledore across the chaos. Dumbledore met his eyes for half a second, understanding flashing between them. Dumbledore gave a small nod. "Go." Jin-Woo turned back to the trio. "Now." Hermione's legs felt like they might fail, but she forced them to move. They slipped away through a side corridor, while shadows and spells kept monsters busy in the main hall. Behind them, Umbridge shouted about rules. No one cared. The hidden passage opened for Jin-Woo like it had been waiting for him. The wall crack shimmered and spread when his shadow touched it. Cold air rolled out. Harry's scar burned again. Hermione's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped her wand. Ron whispered, "I hate this place." Jin-Woo went first, as always. The chamber was worse than before. The veil curtain moved more now, like it was breathing. Whispers filled the air, not words you could understand, but a sound, like too many people speaking behind a door. And in front of the veil stood a figure in a dark robe. No mask. No hiding. Lord Voldemort turned slowly, red eyes gleaming. Harry's body went cold. His scar flared like a flame. Voldemort smiled. "Harry!" Hermione's breath caught. Ron made a small, terrified sound. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. Voldemort's gaze slid to Jin-Woo with clear interest, like he was admiring a rare weapon. "And you?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "You opened gates in a school." Voldemort's smile widened. "I opened a door. Your kind does it often, don't you? You call them gates." Jin-Woo did not flinch. "You don't know what you're touching." Voldemort's voice turned smooth, almost friendly. "On the contrary, I understand death very well." He gestured toward the veil. The curtain rippled. Harry felt the pull, stronger now, like a hand on his chest. Voldemort's gaze locked on Harry. "Come closer." Harry's feet moved a fraction without his permission. Jin-Woo's shadow snapped up and wrapped around Harry's ankle like a tether. Harry jerked, stopping. Voldemort's eyes flicked to the shadow tether. His smile did not fade. Protective. Loyal. Predictable. Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. "Say what you want." Voldemort spread his hand slightly, as if offering a deal. "Very well." His eyes returned to Jin-Woo. "Help me." Hermione's stomach dropped. Voldemort continued, calm and certain. "You have power over shadows, over what remains after death. You command an army that does not tire. You can pull fighters from the fallen and make them serve." Ron whispered, "Don't listen." Voldemort ignored him like Ron was a fly. "In return, I will give you something you want. A way home." Jin-Woo's eyes hardened. "You can't." Voldemort's smile sharpened. "I can. With this veil, with your gate logic, with the boys. Connection." Harry's scar burned like it might split open. Hermione's voice shook. "You're using Harry as a bridge." Voldemort's eyes gleamed. Clever girl. Jin-Woo stepped forward slightly, placing himself between Voldemort and the trio. "Your offer is a trap." Voldemort tilted his head. "All offers are traps. The question is whether the reward is worth it." Jin-Woo did not hesitate. "No." The word landed simple and heavy. Voldemort's smile faded, just a little. "Such certainty." Jin-Woo's voice stayed steady. "I protect people. That's it." Voldemort's eyes flashed. "Then let us test how far that goes." He flicked his wand. The veil surged. A wave of cold blasted out, and shadows began to pour from the curtain like smoke escaping a broken chimney. Tall wraiths formed, faceless and hungry, reaching toward Harry like he was a beacon. Hermione tried a spell. "Protego!" The shield charm flickered under the cold. Harry shouted, "Expecto Patronum!" Silver light burst from his wand, a stag leaping forward. It pushed back some of the wraiths, but others slid around it, resisting, learning. Ron fired jinxes in panic, barely aiming, but enough to slow one wraith for a second. Jin-Woo moved. His shadows rose in a thick wall, pressing back against the wraith wave like a dam against floodwater. Igris appeared beside him, blade up, cutting wraith forms as they reached through the curtain. But the veil kept producing more. Voldemort watched with satisfaction. Yes. Push. Strain. Show me how your shadows behave when death itself becomes the enemy. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. This was not a normal fight. This was a pressure test. Voldemort did not need to defeat Jin-Woo here. He needed to create one opening, one mistake, one moment where Harry stepped too close to the veil. Voldemort's wand snapped toward Harry. A curse flashed. Jin-Woo crossed the space, intercepting without thinking. The curse hit his shadow shield and splashed like poison on glass. The shield cracked, but held. Jin-Woo's eyes sharpened. He could feel it now. Voldemort's magic was trying to slip past defenses and touch the inside. Not the skin. The soul. Jin-Woo's voice turned colder. "You're trying to kill him." Voldemort's smile returned. "I'm trying to use him." Hermione screamed, "Harry, don't move!" Harry's feet felt heavy. His scar burned. The pull from the veil felt like a rope around his ribs. Then Jin-Woo did something Harry did not expect. He grabbed Harry's shoulder and spoke low, urgent, and clear. "Look at me, not him." Harry's eyes snapped to Jin-Woo's. Jin-Woo's gaze was steady, grounded, real. "Breathe," Jin-Woo said. "You're not a door. You're a person." Harry swallowed hard and forced air into his lungs. The pull did not vanish, but it weakened. Voldemort's eyes narrowed slightly, annoyed. He stepped closer to the veil, lifting his wand to the stone frame itself. "Enough games." He began to speak a spell that did not sound like normal wizard Latin. It sounded older, broken, like a language that had been chewed and reshaped. The veil shuddered, responding. Hermione's face went pale. "He's stabilizing it." Ron's voice cracked. "Stop him!" Jin-Woo's mind flashed a prompt again. Boss action. Door stabilization. Interrupt now. Jin-Woo hated how clear it was. He also knew it was right. He left Harry with Hermione and Ron for half a second. Then he launched forward. Voldemort did not panic. He expected Jin-Woo to charge. He flicked his wand and sent a web of curses into the air, not to hit Jin-Woo's body, but to hit the space around him. The stone floor erupted. The air hardened. The room tried to become a cage. Jin-Woo cut through it. He moved like a shadow slipping between cracks. He appeared closer, then closer again. Voldemort's eyes widened a fraction. For the first time, Voldemort felt what it meant to face someone who did not need wand motions to be fast. Voldemort fired another curse, sharp and lethal. Jin-Woo dodged, the curse slicing past his cheek, burning the air. The edge of death brushed him. He did not slow down. He reached Voldemort. And he did not try to kill him. He grabbed Voldemort's wand arm and twisted, forcing the wand away from the veil. Voldemort hissed, more anger than pain. Then Voldemort did something smarter than strength. He let Jin-Woo grab him, because he wanted contact. Voldemort's free hand snapped up and pressed 2 fingers toward Jin-Woo's chest, right over where a heart should be. A burst of cold slammed into Jin-Woo, deeper than skin. It felt like ice trying to dig into his core. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed sharply. Voldemort's voice was a whisper, close and pleased. "There it is. Your anchor. Your throne." He was trying to touch the monarch's center. Jin-Woo's shadow surged violently, reacting like a beast protecting its master. The shadows snapped around Voldemort's arm like chains. Voldemort's eyes flashed, and his body began to blur. Apparition. But the room fought him. Because Jin-Woo's shadow net was anchoring the space. Voldemort's face twisted. Then he made a sharp, cutting choice. He did not apparate out of the room. He stepped backward into the veil. The curtain swallowed him like water swallowing a stone. Hermione screamed. "No!" Harry's scar exploded with pain. Harry fell to one knee, gasping. Ron shouted, "He just went into it!" The veil rippled wildly, like it was excited. Then Voldemort's voice came through the curtain, muffled but clear enough. "You cannot follow," it said. "Not fully. Not yet." Jin-Woo stared at the veil, breathing steady. He could feel Voldemort on the other side. Not far. Not gone. Half present, half hidden. A retreat into a corridor that wasn't a corridor. A place between. The veil pushed again, trying to pour wraiths into the room. Jin-Woo lifted both hands, and his shadows arose like a massive lid. They slammed into the veil's opening, pressing it shut from this side. Igris and Baru formed a line, cutting down any wraith that slipped through the edges. Hermione tried to reinforce with spells, voice shaking as she spoke them. Ron threw everything he had, even when his spells were messy. Harry forced himself up, face pale, and fired Patronus Light again and again, pushing back the cold. Jin-Woo's voice was low and hard. "Now! We seal it!" Hermione's eyes wide, nodded. "We need a ward, a binding circle, something that tells it no." Jin-Woo looked at the stone frame. He could not use wizard runes, but he could use control. He drove his shadows into the cracks of the archway like nails. He anchored them deep, linking them to the castle's stone itself. Then he spoke quietly, not to the veil, but to the shadows. "Hold." The shadows locked. The veil rippled and strained, but it could not bulge outward as easily now. It was not closed, but it was contained. Harry panted, staring at the curtain. "Is he gone?" Jin-Woo's eyes stayed on the moving darkness. "He escaped." Hermione's voice cracked. "But he didn't win." Jin-Woo did not answer right away, because he could feel the truth. Voldemort had not gotten Harry through. He had not taken control of Jin-Woo. But he had learned. He had tested the door. He had tested the Shadow Monarch's core. He had confirmed the bridge. And now he had a new hiding place that wasn't a forest or a graveyard. A place between death and shadow. Jin-Woo finally spoke. He changed the battlefield. Harry swallowed, scar still throbbing. "So what now?" Before Jin-Woo could answer, the stone wall crack shimmered again behind them. Dumbledore stepped through, robes dusty, eyes sharp, wand raised. Snape followed, cloak torn at the edge, face tight. Kingsley came last, breathing hard. Dumbledore's gaze swept the room, landing on the sealed veil, the shadow anchors, the exhausted children. His eyes flashed with anger so controlled, it looked like calm. "Harry," he said softly. Harry flinched. "Professor, I—" Dumbledore lifted a hand. "You are alive. That is what matters." Snape's voice cut in like a knife. "You are reckless," Ron snapped. "We would be dead if we didn't come." Snape's eyes burned. "You might still be." Hermione's voice shook. "The gate in the hall, was it contained?" Kingsley nodded, grim. Jin-Woo's shadows held the line. "We drove the monsters back. The gate collapsed after we destroyed the anchor source above it." Dumbledore looked at Jin-Woo. "You saved them again." Jin-Woo did not look proud. He looked tired. "I couldn't be in both places." Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. "Yet you were, in a way." Because it was true. The shadows in the hall had acted like an army without hesitation. The school still stood. Children still breathed. That was the difference. Dumbledore stepped closer to the veil, studying the shadow anchors. "You have bound it." Jin-Woo nodded once, temporarily. Snape's eyes narrowed. "And Voldemort?" Harry's voice came out hoarse. "He went into it." Snape's face went pale in a way that almost never happened. "Idiot." Dumbledore did not react with blame. He reacted with thought. "He has found a corridor, a refuge." Kingsley's voice was hard. "We must inform the Ministry." Hermione's head snapped up. "No, Umbridge will—" Dumbledore's eyes flicked to Hermione, then softened. He understood. He understood exactly why Hermione feared that. Dumbledore's voice was gentle but firm. "We will inform those we trust, not those who seek control." Kingsley nodded slowly. "Agreed." Snape's gaze moved to Jin-Woo, sharp and cold. "He offered you something." Jin-Woo's eyes met his. "Yes." Snape's voice turned quieter. "And you refused." Jin-Woo's answer was simple. "Yes." Snape studied him like he was trying to find the lie. He didn't find one. That made Snape even more uncomfortable. Dumbledore exhaled slowly, looking around at the young faces. We are in new territory. Voldemort has always wanted to escape death. Now he has found a new idea. He looked at Jin-Woo. And you have become part of our war. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened slightly. I didn't choose that. Dumbledore nodded. No, but you chose what you did with it. That was the point. That was always the point. When dawn finally came, Hogwarts looked battered, but standing. Broken stone in the entrance hall had been repaired. Blood had been cleaned away. The air still held a faint cold in certain corners, like a bruise that had not healed. The Aurors stayed posted outside. Umbridge had been escorted off the grounds, furious, shrieking about authority and decrees, and how Dumbledore would regret this. Her words floated down the path and vanished into the morning fog. Students huddled in common rooms, whispering. Some cried. Some laughed in shaky relief. Some simply stared at walls, trying to understand what they had seen. And through all of it, Jin-Woo walked the halls once more. Not because a prompt told him to, because his own rule did. The sun rose pale over the mountains, turning the sky a soft gray blue. On the astronomy tower, the air was cold enough to sting. The stone underfoot still held night's chill. Jin-Woo stood at the edge, looking out over the grounds. From here, Hogwarts looked calm again, like a picture on a postcard. But Jin-Woo could feel the net of danger under it. The veil chamber was still below, bound with shadows and wards. The gate pressure had lessened, but it had not vanished. It felt like a beast that had been chained, not killed. A quiet flutter landed near him. Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, perched on the low stone wall a few feet away, watching him with bright eyes. Jin-Woo did not move. He did not fear the bird, but he respected it. Fawkes made a soft sound, not quite a song, and then looked toward the stairwell. Footsteps came. Harry stepped onto the tower, wrapped in a cloak, hair messy, face pale. His eyes looked tired in the way Jin-Woo recognized. Not sleepy tired. Battle tired. Harry stopped a few steps away. Professor Dumbledore said you might be up here. Jin-Woo nodded once. I come here to see the edges. Harry swallowed. He rubbed his forehead without thinking. It still hurts a bit. Jin-Woo glanced at the scar. The hook. Harry's mouth twisted. Yeah, the hook. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the grounds. Then Harry asked the question he had been carrying like a stone in his pocket. Why did you stay? Harry said. You could have, I don't know, left, found a way out, or just not gotten involved. Jin-Woo's eyes stayed on the horizon. I tried leaving. Harry blinked. You did? Jin-Woo nodded once. The first week. I walked to the edge of your wards. I looked for a crack. I looked for the same feeling that brought me here. Harry waited. Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. There was nothing. And then I heard students laughing in the courtyard. Harry's throat tightened. So you stayed because of that? Jin-Woo's answer was simple. Because I was here. Harry frowned. That's not an answer. Jin-Woo looked at him then, steady. It is in my world. Harry stared, then slowly understood. When you are the strongest person in a place full of weaker people, you don't get to pretend you didn't notice. Harry's voice turned quiet. Voldemort tried to use me again. Jin-Woo nodded. Yes. Harry's hands clenched. Sometimes I feel like I'm not a person. I'm just a thing people fight over. Jin-Woo's gaze stayed on Harry's face. You are a person. Harry swallowed, blinking hard. You said that in the chamber. Jin-Woo nodded again. Because you needed to hear it. Harry let out a shaky breath. Thanks. Fox shifted, feathers catching the early light. Harry looked out over the grounds. Aurors moved like small dots along the perimeter. Teachers walked students between buildings in tight groups. The castle still stood, but it was different now. Harry asked, "What happens next?" Jin-Woo's eyes went distant for a moment, feeling the weight below the stone. "The door's contained," he said. "Not gone." Harry's scar prickled faintly, like it agreed. Jin-Woo continued, voice low and clear. "Your enemy will come back. He will try a different angle. He will use people who want control. He will use fear. He will use the hook in you." Harry's chest tightened. "So, you'll fight him?" Jin-Woo looked at Harry. "If he brings danger here, yes." Harry hesitated. "Does that mean you're staying?" Jin-Woo's eyes flicked toward the tower stairs, toward the castle, toward the halls he now knew like a map. He could leave if a door opened. He still wanted to go home. But he also knew something now. A world could be a battlefield without looking like one. A school could be a dungeon if death was waiting under it. Jin-Woo answered honestly. "For now." Harry's shoulders loosened a fraction, relief sneaking through the fear. He tried to smile. It came out small. "Okay." Jin-Woo looked back out over the grounds. In his mind, a prompt flickered one last time, like a soft reminder. Daily quest. Patrol. Jin-Woo did not feel annoyed this time. He did not feel controlled. He felt clear. He whispered, so quietly Harry almost missed it. "I choose it." Harry blinked. "What?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed steady. "Nothing." Harry stared at him for a second, then nodded like he understood anyway. Below them, Hogwarts went on. Students walked. Teachers watched. The war waited. And on the highest tower, a shadow guardian stood in the cold morning air, not because he was forced to, but because he decided the boundary would not break today.